Leading program.
Got 50 people signed in.
That's good.
Hello everyone, welcome to Surfrider Foundation Australia's Stopping PEP11 Central Coast Community Town Hall. My name is Laura Wells. I am on the National Board of Directors for Surfrider Australia and I'm an environmentalist and activist. I've been working in this space for a really long time and I'm so happy to be here with you all. Now, while everyone gets settled in, we are going to take you back to the beach to remind you why we're here and the platform that this campaign has really been building on.
All right, this is it. Here we are at Nobby's Beach in Newcastle. Stop number 3 of our Stop PEP11 rolling series across the New South Wales coastline. And after the last couple of weeks, we've been gaining momentum. And I can tell you now, the buzz around town here has been electrifying all week. So we're expecting hundreds of community members to come down and voice their opposition to this potentially disastrous project. All right, let's get ready to roll. We've been travelling up and down the coast now doing a series of paddle outs, and it's been a really beautiful thing to be a part of, to see the communities come together in protection of their coast. It's been really inspiring. They all use this every day, and doing these paddle outs, it's plain to see the passion and the pride that people have for their coastline. And I think these events are important. They bring the community together and they set the precedent for 2021 that we won't let fossil fuel companies dictate the future of our coastline.
Yeah, the beach means everything to me. I mean, I'm down here most of the time surfing, and if we lost it, yeah, it'd be devastating. I mean, I don't even know why they're giving them an option to do it. Let's stop it now and try and find a solution, not get more.
Yeah, I think it's really important for groups like Surf Rider and different groups that are in the mainstream to stand up for these issues, because you need to have that positive voice for these issues, for the environment. When so many of our politicians aren't listening, we need to, as individuals and as groups who are focused on the coast and have a relationship with the coast, we need to stand up and support that environment.
In the spirit of reconciliation, Surfrider Australia acknowledges the traditional custodians of country throughout Australia and their connections to land, sea and community. We pay our respects to elders past, present, and extend that to and respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples today. We are coming together from all different parts of the country today, very diverse country. I'm currently coming to you from Yuin country on the south coast of New South Wales, and I would love for you to pop in the chat exactly what country you're coming from today. We've got a great event planned for you, and thank you so much for taking the time to join us. We're pleased to report that we have around 240 people from the Central Coast that have signed up for this event. And if they're not here today, we are actually recording this event, so it will be available on the Surfrider Facebook page and website so that you can share it on social media, get it out to people that really need to see this and learn about PEP11. It's great to see lots of enthusiasm and to learn about this project from the area that will be arguably the most impacted there on the Central Coast. So here's an overview for the program for today. We'll start with an introduction to PEP11 from Surfrider's campaign and from our Surfrider Foundation's National Campaign Director, Damien Cole. We'll then hear from Bruce Robertson, who is an energy finance analyst with the Institute for Energy Economics and Financial Analysis. Hopefully we'll be hearing from WSL Pro Surfer and Central Coast local Ace Buchan. And we'll be also hearing from Surfrider Northern Beaches branch on what you can do to be involved, also from Save Our Coast representative as well. And then we'll be concluding with a panel discussion with our speakers and also with federal member for Dobell, Emma McBride. As I said, we will be recording this event and it will be available on the Surfrider website, and feel free to pop in any questions that you have into the chat, and we'll try to get to as many of those as possible within the panel discussion. But for now, I'll hand over to Surfrider Foundation's National Campaign Director, Damien Cole, to run you through the program and the campaign.
Thanks so much, Laura, for the great introduction. And hello, everyone. Now, before I continue, I just want to also pay my respects to the traditional owners of the land on which I'm gathered here today, the Wadawurrung people of the Kulin Nation. And I just want to acknowledge that they have a continuing connection to the land, sea, to spirit, to community, and to this great big planet of ours. And I think that in a time right now when there is, you know, a lot of angst in the world, and there's a lot of issues out there, which obviously we'll go into today, it's really important for us to look at those traditional custodians and see what they did right, because they did so much right for so long. Now, I'm going to put up a little slideshow for you all, so you don't have to only watch me, which will keep you engaged, I hope. So here we go. Gotta love these Zooms. Oh, yeah, we've got host disabled. So we'll just be a quick little second. Got it? Cool. Okay, I hope you can all see my screen here. So as I said, my name is Damien Cole. I'm the National Campaign Director for Surfrider Foundation, and I actually got started in this. You probably hear the term a little bit of accidental activist. And I actually started with Surfrider Foundation back in 2019 during the Fight for the Bite, which I'm sure a lot of you would know about. This for me was it was a historic moment, I think, for Australia and for Australian communities, particularly these coastal communities, because we saw the power of what we can accomplish when we all band band together. And we saw that we're up against, you know, multinational, multi-billion-dollar companies that are trying to destroy our planet. And, you know, in this instance, it was to destroy the Great Australian Bight, sorry. And we saw our Australian community stand together and put a line in the sand and say, no more, we will not stand for this any longer. And that for me was a huge inspiration to continue on this fight. And obviously that was a really successful campaign. And then we turned around, and unfortunately the issues don't stop, and we turned to the east coast of Australia, and we saw that there was an imminent threat to the most populated coastline in Australia, in PEP11. So let's get into that, and I'll give you a little rundown of what this whole thing was about. So my next 15 minutes will be talking about what PEP11 exactly is, why it's happening and who's behind it, the risks and impacts that are posed to not only our local communities on that stretch of coast, but the entire east coast of Australia and the planet for that matter. And then also running you through our Stop PEP11 campaign so far, looking at who has really stood up in our community and what we've done to ensure that we spread this awareness. And then finally, and most importantly, what you can do as a local concerned resident, as a community member of one of these potentially affected areas that PEP11 poses. So let's get straight into it. Now, let's go to the basics. What is PEP11? Well, PEP11, whilst it sounds like a strange acronym, it actually stands for Petroleum Exploration Permit 11. So a lot of it is said in that title in itself, that they are exploring for petroleum. Now, what it is, it's a permit to drill for oil and gas offshore between Manly and Newcastle. So Manly in the south, obviously, all the way up to Newcastle in the north. And it stretches over 4,500 square kilometres. So it's quite a wide lease. This is a decent sized lease. And it's actually the equivalent of 83 Sydney harbours. So there's a lot of water and a lot at stake here. You've probably heard a lot of people talk about the fact we may not be able to see the rigs or not. Well, the lease does come in within 6 kilometres of the shoreline. So that to me is quite a scary thought to look at. That's not too far at all. And what are they really looking for? Now, we've been hearing a lot about gas, and that's our transition fuel. And it seems to be that is the hot kind of new word to be using as a fossil fuel company. But we've actually gone and done a little bit of digging, and it found in an independent expert report that was through Advent Energy, who's one of the proponents we'll get into soon. But this is an independent expert report, which stated as the underlined line just says there, the sentence, Sydney Basin compare favourably as a potential source for both oil and gas. So whilst they might be predominantly looking for gas, there's a strong likelihood that oil will be found out there. Now, looking at the size of this lease, this one is a little bit of an outdated lease. The lease has been cut off in that southern bit, so it doesn't extend past Sydney any longer. But the most important thing I want you to take out of this map is we've been hearing that there's only going to be one exploration well. There have been certain politicians who have talked about the well only being the size of a tabletop, which that to me doesn't make any sense. But even if it is to begin with one exploration well, we have to look at, it's a confusing map, but if you look at on the right hand side, you'll see Baleen, the second name down. That's the name of the basin, the Baleen Basin, and that's what they want to drill first. And that's where all those the red dots are, those big kind of blobs. That's where they're expecting to find fossil fuels, whether it be gas or oil. So as you can see, whilst it may start only in Baleen, this can lead to future exploration wells up as far as Newcastle and all the way down to Sydney. And the first one is actually going to be between Newcastle and the Central Coast. They're talking about 26 kilometres southeast of Newcastle. So that's the first exploration well that they'll be looking to drill. Now, let's go for a little bit more of an in-depth overview of this. So who are the proponents? Who are these fossil fuel companies? Well, looking down the bottom there, we've got the PEP11 license, and they're actually owned by two different companies. Bounty Oil and Gas owns 15% of that license, whilst Asset Energy owns 85%, so the rest of it. But Asset Energy is also owned by Advent Energy. Now, this does get a little confusing. It confuses us as well. How many of these companies get involved? So we just wanted to quickly clear this up. Advent Energy are then owned by MEC Resources and BPH Energy. They are the ones with the money who are funding this entire project. And they fund to Advent. Advent then working as they own Asset. They go through Asset, and Asset are the ones doing all the day-to-day activities. Now, what's the politics of all of this? As I'm sure you've all heard, there is a lot of opposition to this issue. So we've had the entire New South Wales government who is opposed to this. The Federal Labor Party has opposed this as of this year in February. We've had every MP from Bondi to Newcastle oppose this from all different parties, whether it be Liberal, Labor, Independents, the Greens. No one seems to want it. We've even heard that Prime Minister Scott Morrison is opposed to it as well, making a statement a few months back. So the question is, if every politician who has spoken out on this issue has opposed it, then the multi-million-dollar question and everything that's at stake for us is, why is PEP11 still alive? Now, the answer to that is Federal Resources Minister Keith Pitt. Now, he is the one with the final say as to whether this gets approval or not. And he has come out and he's been quoted as saying that he will not be rushed into making a decision. So whilst we hear the comments from different politicians saying that this is dead in the water, it is absolutely not dead in the water, because we have Keith Pitt, who is still there trying to make a decision on this. And then the most important thing we have to link this to is the fact that this is part of the government's gas-led recovery, of which Keith Pitt is a huge advocate for, because the PEP11 permit was actually set to expire in February 2021. That's over 6 months ago now. But the proponents, Asset and Bounty Oil and Gas, have applied for an extension as well as a change of permit title. The extension application was actually made under the federal government's COVID-19 Work Bid Exploration Permit Scheme. It's a bit of a mouthful, but basically what this is, it forms part of the government's gas-led recovery agenda, allowing for these projects to push through as part of this gas-led recovery. The other thing is that the permit is currently sitting as a seismic testing permit only, and they've actually put an application in to change the permit from seismic testing to exploration, which allows them to drill. So this, when we're looking at the gas-led recovery, and obviously PEP11 being the kind of, I guess, golden child of this gas-led recovery, it just doesn't make sense, because we are awash with gas. As you can see in the top left there, that is the amount of leases and projects for gas that is going on in Australia right now. We have hundreds of them. And we've got part of this gas-led recovery is we are now starting to put some of our most iconic, treasured and pristine coastlines at risk. The 12 Apostles being one of them, with the 2021 release for the acreage release, which has now got a lease there, which is up for grabs for one of these fossil fuel companies, which is only 6 kilometres away from the world-renowned 12 Apostles. Now, while all this is happening, we get told time and time again that this is for our domestic gas shortage and to secure our domestic gas market. But as we're going to hear from Bruce Robertson in a little minute, we're the single biggest exporter of gas in the world, exporting over 70% of our gas from all of these hundreds of projects that you see up in the top left corner. And whilst this is happening, East Coast Australia is paying the 7th highest gas prices in the world, which is just ridiculous. And then you look at WA, which has a huge amount of leases over there and a huge amount of gas coming out of Western Australia. We pay on the East Coast, we pay more than twice the amount of gas than WA. And that's because they have a state policy that reserves gas for domestic use. So the question I've been asking myself is, if we're the biggest exporter of gas in the world, how is it that we can't control these companies to secure our reserves first domestically, which then would mean that we wouldn't have to jeopardize the entire east coast of Australia with a ridiculous project like this? That's just my questions. Now, Why don't we want this to happen? Because the risks and impacts are just huge, and they go, the list just keeps on going. But we're going to run through a couple of really basic ones, and it could prove, I like to use this from my environmental science degree, I like to look at it from the triple bottom line. The triple bottom line being the three pillars of our society, which is our economy, our environment, and our social well-being. All of these need to be addressed and need to be nurtured. Now, for us here on the East Coast, all three of those are under risk with this PEP11 project. First, let's get into the economy. Well, we've got huge amounts of money that are reliant on our industries on the East Coast. Our local economies are so heavily reliant on industries like tourism, the hospitality industry, events, and fishing, which have a combined worth of $11 billion per annum. And not only that, Sydney beach access is alone worth $1.2 billion per year to our local economies. That's just people coming to the beach and then spending money in those local economies. And what do they love? They love the pristine beaches, they love the pristine water quality and the biodiversity that they see and get to experience while they're there. Then we have, we've got our environment. And obviously this in Australia is something that we do pride ourselves on. Yes, we've had a lot of issues. We have had degradation all over the country, but overall we still live in one of the most beautiful countries in the world. And the coastlines here are something that, that attracts international and national tourists from all over. And the coastline from Manly to Newcastle and overall the East Coast is a whale migration superhighway. Whilst whales back in the late 1800s and early 1900s dwindled down to mere hundreds, the conservation efforts of local organisations and our government themselves has meant that we've actually been able to protect these whales so that the numbers have now ranged up to around anywhere between 29 and 31,000 whales that come past Sydney, Central Coast, Newcastle every single year. Not only that, we've also got a little bit further south than the Central Coast on Manly Beach. It's home to the endangered colony of little penguins, and their numbers are dwindling fast, with the estimated 50 to 60 only left in that area for that colony. So they are endangered. And overall, obviously, this drilling will disrupt marine habitats, migration, and fish, even if there isn't a spill or a leak. These things, whilst you may not need to have a leak that reaches all the way up and down the East Coast, the everyday activities that the fossil fuel industry bring to these coastlines do disrupt everything, and they are a detriment to our ecosystems overall. And there are things called operational leaks, which are commonplace, happening almost on a daily occurrence. Those are the leaks that you don't hear about, but they just happen bit by bit, just slowly leaking out. They're things that are only reportable and recordable, but don't necessarily make it into the media. But those things affect the everyday lives of not only the species out there, but also the local communities on that East Coast, which are directly affected. Now, obviously, part of the environment is our climate. And we saw last week the IPCC report, which came out, and it was overwhelming. It was scary. A lot of us are quite saddened and frightened by what's going on. And for that, I completely understand, because what it's telling us is we need to stop the use of fossil fuels, and we need to stop the expansion of that industry today. Because whilst we keep hearing that gas is a great transition fuel, it's simply not true. Gas is a harmful fossil fuel, and it's a pollutant that's primarily made up of methane. We hear that word methane a lot, and it's a potent greenhouse gas, which is up to 84 times more potent than carbon dioxide. And yes, as we hear, it doesn't hang around in the atmosphere as long, but it still hangs around there for anywhere between 2 to 8 years. And with the IPCC report saying we only have a number of anywhere between 6 to 8 years left, we're in a bit of trouble if we keep pushing for this gas-led recovery. Now, why does this happen? Because burning gas, and all fossil fuels for that matter, thickens our atmosphere and thickens the pollution blanket that encircles our planet. And therefore, just like a doona that's too thick on your bed, you heat up too much. just like our planet is doing at this very moment, making this climate change worse and turning it into the crisis that we find ourselves in today. And then lastly, our community, our social well-being. Now, Australians, I always have a really hard time with our history. Our colonial history over the last few hundred years is quite dark. But in one positive aspect, what we have done is developed culture, and our history and culture has been developed around our oceans and around our pristine beaches. And that's something that I think a lot of Australians are proud of. We have everything from our social activities, whether it be surfing, kayaking, walks on the beach, swimming, to the very oxygen that we breathe is thanks to that pristine big blue ocean that we love to call home and that we immerse ourselves in every single day. And with this coastline between Sydney and Newcastle being the most populated in Australia, that means that this community along that stretch of coastline has the most to lose from PEP11, because millions of people rely on a healthy ocean for their overall health, mental health, physical health, economic health. Their whole livelihood is at stake here. So, what does our campaign look like so far? Well, as I mentioned with the Fight for the Bite, this is something that gets me so inspired every single day. This is why I come to work every single day. It is community power and the power of the people. And we have seen this time and time again. We've seen volunteers and community members, concerned citizens who do not want to see the destruction of their coastline. And we've seen that through the startup organisations of Save Our Coast, Surfers for Climate, Surfrider Foundation, and Living Ocean, who have all come together in an alliance to make sure that we represent our communities and protect our oceans. And I really want to give a special shout out to Save Our Coast, who were the first ones to really get this entire campaign moving, who have amassed over 86,000 signatures in a couple of petitions, and who were really on the forefront of this, getting Surfrider Foundation involved. So for that, a huge shout out to Save Our Coast for bringing us all in together. Now, as Surfrider got involved last year, we thought we like to have a little bit of fun here at Surfrider Foundation, so we got riggy with it. And we actually designed not only a little cardboard cutout, which we sent out to a lot of communities, but we also got our AR filter, the filter being for our social media channels, so that people could really have that, get a sense of perception of what this could look like, having oil rigs on our horizon, which would be destroying our coastline. We then went to Canberra last December, and we went there with Save Our Coast and Surfrider Foundation, taking a delegation up there to speak with politicians, but also, as you can see on the right-hand side, yes, that is us in some dirty brown water in Lake Burley-Griffin. That is not the Central Coast, and it's far from it. But we did that, and you can see that's testament to the work that we do, because we care so deeply about protecting our coastline that we really risked getting some kind of ear infection, or I don't know what is in there, but we did it for the greater good. And I think it really worked, because with what we did up there, we spoke to politicians, we had press releases and our paddle out. We ended up getting the Labor Party, we pushed the Labor Party into really advocating, and a lot of the MPs, which we'll hear about today from Emma McBride, they had that real realisation of how strongly our community felt about this PEP11 project, that we didn't want it. And Labor did the right thing and actually came out and formally opposed it. And again, this is the power of our community's advocacy to those politicians. We then saw our paddle outs, which I'm sure a lot of you came to. We had one in Manly, which is where we started, in Mona Vale, which you can see here, two-time world champion Tom Carroll. Which was great fun to kickstart the paddle out series, which was from between April and May. And then we came to Terrigal, which is the one that I'm sure a lot of you came to. And I do apologise, we just got the wrong video. We should have sent the video for the Central Coast at the start of today, but that was my mix up. So apologies for that. But I must say, this was the biggest paddle out that we've done for Stop PEP11. So a huge, huge big up to all of the residents who came down and stood up to protect their coastline. Now, what we've seen over the last week is it's been so great to see Zali Stegel, who's the member the member for the Northern Beaches there in Warringah, who came out with a Stopping PEP11 bill. Now, this, what it's done is it has empowered the MPs who have come out in opposition to this from all walks of life, from all different parties. They've all come out and opposed it, which we spoke about a little earlier. This now takes it out of the hands of Keith Pitt and actually empowers our local MPs to vote in favour of stopping PEP11. So this is where it's changed the entire game of where we're at right now, waiting with angst for Keith Pitt to make a decision. This is now going to be a really, really big bill, and we hope that it gets voted in favour of stopping PEP11. So most importantly, what can you do as a member of your community, as a concerned citizen of planet Earth? Well, there's a few things you can do. Our number one right now is, as I've just said, with this Stopping PEP11 bill coming out, we are urging all parliamentarians to vote in favour of that through a petition that we have on our website at surfrider.org.au. So I urge you, please, and encourage you to sign this petition and share it far and wide. Signing it is incredible, and that's your first step, but to share it and make sure that you have 5, 10, 15 of your friends share it and sign it as well, that is the real key where we can make change. The second one you can do is write to your local MPs. Tell them how you feel. Tell them why you are against this PEP11 project, this ridiculous project, because this is what we do as a community. We need to communicate with those that are representing us to make sure that they have all of the knowledge to be able to make the right decision for us. And then third and lastly is to join us at Surfrider Foundation and donate to our Stop PEP11 campaign. We work tirelessly day in, day out to protect our coastline, to protect our oceans and our communities, but we can't do it without your support. And that is a really important part for our organisations, to make sure that we're representing every single coastal community and every one of you to ensure that we can be as effective as possible. All right, so as a quick little recap, by now, in the last 15 minutes, you should now know what PEP11 is, what it's about, why it's happening, who's behind it, what the risks and impacts are, what the campaign has been so far and where it's heading, and what you can do to help us stop PEP11.
Thank you, Damo, for that awesome cap on what has been happening with the actual campaign itself. I'm going to throw over to Bruce Robertson, who is the Energy Finance Analyst with the Institute for Energy Economics and Financial Analysis. And he's going to talk to us about the insanity of the government's gas-led recovery policy and why it's actually enabling projects like PEP11 all around Australia. Thanks, Bruce.
Thank you. I've just got to do the screen sharing thing, so hopefully it'll work this time. Okay. Yeah, today's talk is entitled Feeding the Beast. And the beast is the big LNG export plants that have been built up at Gladstone in far north Queensland. There have been 3 large plants built up there, and essentially 70% of the gas produced on over 70% of the gas produced on the east coast of Australia is exported. So this very idea that we have a shortage of gas when we're the world's largest exporter of LNG, and we export over 70% of the gas that we produce on the East Coast, is absurd. While the world is rushing away from fossil fuels, Australia is embarking on the greatest expansion in the industry seen in recent years. There's been huge acreage releases, both onshore and offshore, all around the country. There are new projects going into every single state and territory, with the exception of the ACT. The gas-fired recovery is this enormous expansion of the gas industry at the very time that we've had the IPCC come out and say that we've got code red for the climate. Australia's three largest LNG export markets, Japan, China, and Korea, have all gone net zero, unlike Australia, by mid-century, 2060 in China's case. The International Energy Agency, an agency sponsored by the fossil fuel industry, has stated that no new natural gas fields are needed in the net zero emissions by 2050 roadmap beyond those already under development. They've actually said that we cannot get to 1.5 degree warming if we open up new gas fields. And that is a precise policy of our government. Our government has a stated policy of overheating the planet. Japan has announced a power plan to 2030 in July 2021. Now, why do I mention Japan? Well, it happens to be the world's largest importer of LNG. And they are looking at doubling renewable energy in their power mix and halving the use of LNG. Now, LNG isn't just used in power production, it's also used in industry and in households. But overall in Japan, you're looking at imports declining by 1/3 by 2030. So in a very short time frame, we're seeing a massive decline in LNG. After a COVID-19 slump in gas demand in the USA, the official forecasting agency, government forecasting agency, sees further falls in gas usage in 2021 and 2022 as renewables eat in to gas's market share in power production. Domestically, we're seeing gas winding its way out of our energy system. Contrary to this idea that we need more and more gas, we actually need less and less gas. And we're going to see carbon border adjustment mechanisms brought in. I would also say that this industry is an appalling taxpayer, and onshore royalties are minimal. They do pay some offshore royalties, but many projects pay no royalties in the life of the entire project. This is a map just showing the main offshore drilling, as we're talking about PEP11 is an offshore project, and they are concentrated up on the northwest shelf off Western Australia and off the Northern Territory, and the Bass Strait are the two major areas for gas and oil production. I think it's also important to note that our major competitor in production of LNG, Qatar, is embarking on a massive expansion project of its own. It's looking to increase its LNG production by 64% by 2027. And if you have a look, it is the world's lowest cost producer. So we're competing against the best. Qataris are the world's lowest cost producer. Now, they're the world's lowest cost producer for a few reasons. Firstly, they know what they're doing. They're very good at actually producing LNG. Secondly, they have a phenomenal resource that's located close to the coast and in shallow water. All those factors combine to make them a very low cost producer, unlike Australia, which is a higher cost producer. Turning to the Australian domestic market, if we have a look at the domestic market here, what we're seeing is a decline in the usage of gas. And it's declined markedly, down 23% since 2014. This is against the narrative that's constantly pushed to us that we need more gas. We're using less gas. If we have a look at the breakup of that, we see that industrials declined 11%. Industrial declines will be quite jagged on the downside as plants progressively close. They will progressively close because in Australia we pay some of the highest gas prices in the world on the east coast of Australia. And that makes gas an unaffordable fuel to manufacture with. We've seen residential consumption go up by about 11%. I believe that will soon turn down, likewise because gas is too expensive. And we're seeing some government programs, particularly in the gas-intensive state of Victoria, to get domestic consumers off gas. If you have gas in your home, I urge you to get off gas. It's cheaper to cook and heat your home and heat your hot water with electricity. And it's far more environmentally friendly. And most importantly, it's better for your health. There's very strong links between gas usage in the home and asthma. Gas appliances should come with a health warning on them. If we have a look at gas-powered generation, we've seen very steep declines. In contrast to the narrative we're constantly sold as gas is a transition fuel, we need gas in a strong renewables generating system, that's just wrong. We have used vastly less gas while renewables have increased to around 30% of the electricity we consume in the national electricity market on the east coast of Australia. And it's declined so much because it's simply not economic. The only gas plants being built in Australia are being built on the back of big government subsidies. It's big dollars from our government that's meaning that we're getting more gas-powered generation. Without that, it would just fade away naturally. I think it's really important to note that the Australian Energy Market Operator, it's the only group that's actually modelled the whole electricity system in Australia. It sees a smaller role for gas in the future in a renewables-rich grid in its integrated systems plan, not a larger role as the government keeps telling us. We have a look at gas prices. Out of 54 countries surveyed, Australia came in 7th. Now, that's not a good thing. That's the 7th highest prices on the globe. And if you look at all the people above us, and actually a lot of the people below us too, they're actually all importing nations. We're an exporting nation. We should be down the bottom below that 38th that Western Australia is at. We should be in the bottom 10 or so countries out of 54. So, and yet we're in the top 10. This is essentially from government policy. On the east coast of Australia, the government has a clear policy to throw the Australian gas consumer to the gas cartel, the small number of people that control the market. It's not a free market in Australia for gas, it's a controlled market. And what they do is they just keep the supply a little bit below where we consume, a tiny little bit, and it forces the price through the roof. And they do this consistently. And that's why we're seeing gas go out as a fuel in Australia. It's simply unaffordable. And our government does nothing about it. We've had an ACCC inquiry that's gone on and on and on, and essentially has gone on since 2015. Normally these inquiries wind up after 18 months and they get a result and the government comes in and puts in a policy and changes things. All the policy that this government's followed is to extend the gas price inquiry and extend it again and extend it again. And it's now a never-ending inquiry into gas prices. And every time the government does absolutely nothing about the gas price. To put some perspective on how expensive gas is in Australia, it's over 5.5 times, the gas price is over 5.5 times that of Qatar, 3 times the price of gas in the USA, 5 times that of the Russian Federation. It's not a little bit more. We are not within a bull's roar of being competitive. On to some positive news. Solar and wind prices have declined very steeply in recent years, in the last decade. But we're seeing declines in battery costs that are even faster. Now, this is leading to rapid adoption of battery technology in Australia. There's huge investment going into batteries right now, and they are the way that we're filling in the peaks. It's with battery storage. Batteries are now cost competitive and they are being built. And here's a graph showing the enormous investment going into solar, wind, hydro, and battery storage. And it's really interesting to note how little is going into gas. OCGT is gas peaking plants, and there's really not a lot of investment going in there. And the only reason it is because of large government subsidies. I'd like to end my talk by talking a bit about emissions. It's really important to note that global methane emissions grew at the fastest rate since records began in 1982, last year, in a COVID-affected year. Methane, one of the main drivers of this is the oil and gas industry. Gas is made up of methane. It's about, overall, methane emissions are around 25% of all greenhouse gases is methane. 25%, a quarter of them. And they're growing fast. I don't need to remind you that the Paris commitments actually mean we need to reduce emissions, not increase emissions. And up is not down. And we are headed up strongly at the moment. Look, the final thing I would like to talk about actually is carbon capture and storage. It's just another subsidy harvesting exercise by the gas industry. Chevron is has one of the largest carbon capture and storage projects on the west coast of Australia. It simply hasn't worked for most of the time and hasn't captured anywhere near the amount of carbon dioxide that it promised it would. It's been enormously expensive. Most of the time it's been broken down with various technical issues. If we have a look at the only carbon capture storage project done on a power plant, Petronova in the USA, that broke down numerous times, was very expensive, and they've now shut that. If we have a look at Santos's proposed carbon capture storage program, again, heavily subsidized by the government, that is only going to capture up to, I use the words up to advisedly, 50% of the carbon dioxide produced at the wellhead. So these carbon capture and storage schemes simply don't work. And when they do, they only capture a fraction of the carbon dioxide actually produced. And not all of it stays underground either. Some of it finds its way to the surface. So this is another way of greenwashing gas and trying to get gas to stay in the system for longer, and it should be opposed. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Bruce. We appreciate that. And it's great to touch on that carbon capture and storage as well, because just yesterday, Advent and BP have actually spoken up about the fact that, you know, PEP11 zone could actually be used for carbon capture and storage as well. So it's something to keep our eye on and know that it actually doesn't work. I am going to throw over now to Ace Buchan, who has been part of the World Surfing League Championship Tour for over a decade and hails from Avoca Beach on the Central Coast. Ace is actually currently in California right now, where he's been competing. So hopefully his reception holds up. Ace, over to you.
Hey guys, hope you can hear me. I'm gonna keep my video off. I'm actually up in Mammoth Lakes, up in the Sierra Nevada mountain range. Just enjoying a little bit of fresh air and kind of charging the body and mind with a bunch of friends of mine. And yeah, super stoked to join you guys today. It's been really interesting to kind of listen to, you know, everyone talking on here. And yeah, I guess, you know, as someone who's grown up on the Central Coast, you know, we've got a lot of passion and pride for our home, and we want to protect it for the next generation. You know, and as a surfer and someone who's, you know, been lucky enough to have a career and surf all around the world, you know, I feel a great sense of responsibility and, you know, even a duty to kind of act as a custodian for something that's, you know, given me so much, and that I'm now, seeing, you know, my children fall in love with. And yeah, I feel like, you know, the Australian government is failing our children and failing our biodiversity, you know, miserably. You know, the idea that Australia's most populous coastline could be turned into a fossil fuel development in the middle of a climate crisis just blows my mind. You know, we're the first generation to really feel the effects of climate change, and really the last generation that have the power to do something about it. You know, reading the IPCC, you know, Code Red climate report last week was pretty sobering, but at the same time, you know, empowering, because I feel like it gives these discussions and movements so much weight. You know, we really don't have time to waste. And yeah, it's frustrating to kind of, you know, hear the rhetoric coming out of the LNP party. And, you know, I think as humans, we rely on a healthy ocean. You know, there's not a healthy earth or healthy oceans without a healthy ocean. And I'm a big proponent of 30 by 30, you know, highly protecting 30% of the world's oceans by 2030. I think that's going to be a huge step forward to making sure that the ocean, you know, not only survives but thrives. And we know that we need that for us. We need it for our children. And yeah, you know, I think we're missing our opportunity to be real leaders in renewable energy. You know, we've heard about the capabilities of solar, of wind, of battery, and, you know, Australia being one of the hottest, driest, windiest continents on Earth. We've got so much opportunity there. And yeah, it's very frustrating to see a party, you know, governing our country that is completely wedded to, you know, deepening our ties to fossil fuels and to the fossil fuel industry. But yeah, I'm really proud of not only the Central Coast community, but of everyone that, you know, calls PEP11 home, because it is our home and we love it and we want to protect it. And, you know, I think this is a big line of sand for us, and it's become an election issue now. And I just encourage everyone to, you know, vote with their hearts, and together I think we can stop this. And we've shown that, you know, if we act, you know, united and as one voice, we really do have the power to make change. So yeah, I want to say a big thanks to Surfrider and to everyone who's, you know, gotten behind this movement, and looking forward to hopefully, you know, putting a line in the sand and stopping this project once and for all.
Thanks, Ace, and thanks for joining us all the way from California. I know it's been a bit difficult to get online, but your voice and your support on this campaign has been phenomenal. And just knowing that we've got these big figures there that are willing to put their voice and their hard work on the line is just really incredible, and sets a great example for everyone all over Australia to get on board. So thank you very much.
No worries. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, Ace. I'm going to throw over to Asha as well now from Save Our Coast, which is the community group that has been working hard to stop this project for a number of years. And Asha's going to tell us a bit about what you can do at a local level to make sure we never see oil and gas rigs off our coast. Asha.
Thank you, Laura. Hi everyone, my name is Asha Nidri and I'm the student representative of Save Our Coast. I would like to acknowledge and pay my respects to the traditional custodians of this land, where I'm residing today, the Awabakal people, and pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging, and also to the 65,000-year history and continuing culture and community and caring for country that we have much to learn from. Now, my love for the ocean has always been an integral part of my life. I learned to respect its power and beauty from a young age while surfing with my dad. Our beautiful coast is home to a rich biodiversity, including many endangered species. We regularly see marine mammals while swimming and surfing, and are so lucky to have the marine landscape that we have and the whale migration path in our backyard. Now, the ocean and our beach lifestyle is important to everyone. A lot of my friends are surfers, and a lot of them are beachgoers who care deeply about the ocean and its inhabitants. It is important to my generation and the generations that aren't born yet. No one I know thinks PEP11 is a good idea. And we are disappointed. This permit expired 6 months ago, and Minister Keith Pitt still has not designed denied the application for its extension. Even though local government members have listened to their constituents and have opposed and continued to speak out against PEP11, there is radio silence from our Resources Minister. Now, our founder, Natasha Dean, started Save Our Coast 3 years ago. Since then, we have collected over 86,000 signatures on petitions and have seen more than 23,000 community actions taken from all over Australia. We have heard how strongly the community is opposed to PEP11, and we will continue to fight for our part of the coast and for future generations. Now, it's been truly incredible to witness the communities of the East Coast unite to stop PEP11 with the Paddle Out series and these town hall events as well. So they call it PEP11, we call it home. This is our home, and I am proud to be here today, representing the grassroots community, not-for-profit Save Our Coast. It's been amazing. And Save Our Coast would like to thank Surfrider for their vital collaboration in this campaign and hosting this event as well. We also want to thank Zali Stegel and her team and all of our allies and speakers for their support. And I would also like to acknowledge everyone here today, the ones that show up to address this climate emergency. Now, I speak for myself and young people. We are asking Minister Keith Pitt to stop PEP11 and also encouraging everyone to get behind Zali Stegel to push her Stopping PEP11 bill, which will finally end PEP11 and prevent any project of its kind in our local area. So Community Voices won the fight for the bite, stop seismic testing in the PEP11 zone, and now we need community action. Our voices are powerful and we need to use them now. It's the chance for you guys to get involved so we can start conversations in our community, speak up and contact your local MPs. I will also link the Save Our Coast website in the chat, which has resources and some information that you can use to contact your local MP as well. Thank you so much.
Asha, thank you so much for lending your voice to this campaign. It makes me very, very hopeful for the future, knowing that we have so many young people like you that are an amazing voice of reason and willing to go out there and help our environment. It's so inspiring. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Laura.
I want to say thank you to all that have presented thus far. We're now going to give you an opportunity for those listening to ask some questions, and we're going to move on to our panel. We'll first start with federal member for Dobell, Emma McBride. We did invite Lucy Wicks, the federal MP for the seat of Robertson on the Central Coast, but she has declined the invitation. So Emma, I'm going to throw over to you. As we've heard, Zali Stegel's Stopping PEP11 bill will circumvent Minister Pitt's decision-making authority on PEP11 and put the decision into the hands of Parliament. We spoke to your colleague, Matt Thistlethwaite, yesterday from the ALP at the Eastern Suburbs Town Hall, and he said he's expected the ALP to support Zali's bill. Do you agree, and will you support it when it's voted on?
Hi, Laura. Thank you for inviting me to be here today. It's good to see Damien and Asha and Ace. Yes, I mean, I am strongly opposed to PEP11. And I also like to acknowledge my colleague Sharon Clayton, the member for Newcastle, and Liesl Tesh, the member for Gosford, who are joining this event today. I mean, I met with Save Our Coast and the Surfrider Foundation back in December. I had a chance to speak out in the Parliament in February ahead of the time the licence was due to expire. And I brought with my colleague Sharon and Liesl Federal Labor to Terrigal in February ahead of the decision to put Labor's strong opposition to PEP11. Like many of you, I grew up on the coast. It is my home, it's our home, and it means so much to all of us. I mean, the thing that I would just like to mention is, though, two things about the bill. One, whilst Minister Pitt doesn't act, exploration can continue. And as Damien and others have mentioned today, it's 6 months, as Asha said, since that. So I think it's really important to know that, as many people know, this is a joint authority. And the Deputy Premier, John Barilaro, back in February, voiced his opposition. The Prime Minister voiced his opposition in March, and yet Minister Pitt hasn't acted, so exploration can continue. This is a matter of urgency. So I would encourage people in writing to the federal MP to also write to Minister Pitt, because he is the one person who can make this decision with a stroke of a pen today. Minister Pitt can make this decision today. The other thing, as Matt said yesterday, I'm sure Federal Labor will support Zali's bill, but unfortunately I'm not confident that the government will bring it to the Parliament. It is the government's, very few private members' bills are ever brought to the Parliament. If it was brought to the Parliament, of course, federal Labor, would oppose it. But I just caution that it is unlikely that it will be brought to the Parliament. I know that the member intends to bring it in October, and I hope that the government support her in doing that. But very few private members' bills are brought to the Parliament or ever get voted on.
Unreal. Thank you for that. That's really good to know. And it's great to know that you are supporting the stopping of PEP11, regardless if it gets voted or not. And we know what we can do, and we need to target Keith Pitt right here and now. I'll stick with you. The International Energy Agency says we cannot have any new coal, oil or gas if we're to meet our climate goals. Does the ALP support the expansion of Australia's oil and gas industry during the climate crisis?
What I want to bring people to today, because we're at a town hall on the Central Coast, many of you would know about Wallara 2. Wallara 2 is a proposed long-wall coal mine in the water catchment of 350,000 people on the Central Coast. I have been opposed to Wallara 2 since 2008. This long-wall coal mine is, if it goes ahead, likely to extract 5 million tonnes of thermal coal per year, without a total greenhouse gas emission over the life of the mine of 264 million tonnes of CO2. So I have nailed my credentials to the mast. I have been opposed to this proposed new longwall coal mine in my community, in the community where I grew up, since 2008. And I know this isn't the purpose of today's meeting, but I would encourage all of those local Central Coast people who care passionately about our community and our environment to also, throw their opposition behind Wallara 2. I wrote to the Federal Minister Price, about this under the EPBC water trigger, and they gave it the green light. It was also opposed by the Liberal Party before a state election, and then 3 years later, the then Premier, Barry O'Farrell, gave its approval. So I just caution people in making this an election issue. What we need to do is see Keith Pitt strike this off now. He, with a stroke of the pen today, can stop PEP11 and can give all our communities the certainty that we need. I am strongly opposed to PEP11, as I am to Wallara 2, and I encourage everyone in the Central Coast community to know that we've got more than one battle to fight. We've got PEP11 and we have Wallara 2.
Yeah, there's so much going on at the moment. And I guess you've kind of answered my next question for you, which was, do you support drilling for offshore oil and gas anywhere else on the New South Wales coastline, or any of the other iconic coastal locations like Victoria's Great Ocean Road?
As Ace and others have said, we care passionately about our community. This is about me as a local person as much as it's about me as a local MP. Like Asha, I grew up surfing with my dad, who's sadly no longer with us. But in his honour and the honour of so many others, I will continue my strong opposition, because it's our community. And Damien mentioned the triple bottom line, and this doesn't stack up on any. So thank you so much for hosting this event today. Thank you for making myself and my colleagues so welcome. And we will do everything to back you in to stop PEP11.
Thanks, Lucy. So I just want to ask one more time, just for our viewers, because I've got a few questions popping up, just to say, if the Stopping PEP11 bill does get up for a vote, are you willing to support it?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Great. Unreal. Thank you so much. And thank you for all your hard work in the local area. I know everyone listening in today absolutely, really stands by you and appreciates all the hard work you're doing, especially for the environment and the local community.
Well, and I just want to give out a shout out to Liesl Tesh. Many of you know Liesl is such a strong advocate for our community on environmental and other issues of community concern. And Liesl and I joined the paddle out in April, and Ace cruised by us. But we were so pleased to be out in the water, joining everyone else in this fight.
Unreal. Thank you so much again for all your support. Damo, I'm going to throw over to you. A lot of people have been asking why Lucy Wicks hasn't shown up. What exactly did she say?
So obviously we were having a little bit of back and forwards, and we understand all MPs have a lot on their plate. And she said she had a clash, as she's the chair of the Joint Committee on Public Accounts and Audit, and they have a hearing today. So unfortunately, she said that it was a bit of a clash and she couldn't make it.
All right, very convenient, but that's okay.
She did provide a written statement for us, and I'll just kind of read you out I guess, a bit of a summary of what she said, which she said, I have been on the record publicly opposing any renewal of this drilling permit. I will not put our natural environment and coastal lifestyle at risk. Our community says no, I say no, and the Prime Minister says no. But unfortunately, the frustrating thing with this issue is that, up until now, the problem is that the Prime Minister or Miss Wicks haven't got a say in this. As we keep getting told, that Keith Pitt has had the final say. And what he's saying is he won't be rushed into making a decision, and that opening up a new gas basin is a priority under the government's gas-led recovery. But I think, fortunately, as we've kind of been told, and as you spoke about with Emma McBride, then fortunately, the PM, as in the Prime Minister and Miss Wicks, will get that say, hopefully, when Zali Steggall's bill to ban PEP11 is brought forward for a vote in, let's hope, in October, if all things go right. So the bill would override the minister's decision, making authority, and cancel the project. And I suspect the community will be carefully watching how not only Lucy votes on that one, but how every single MP votes on it, including the Prime Minister. And what I did want to say as well is that the great thing about this bill is that it doesn't just take away this current permit, but it actually bans the entire lease in perpetuity, which means essentially forever. And that would be a huge win, I think, for our coastal communities. So we did ask Lucy how she planned to vote on Zali Steggall's bill, but we received that response with no concrete evidence as to how she would vote with it.
All right, well, that's good to know. At least she's on board so far with stopping PEP11, and hopefully if this bill does get up, we've got some good support from a lot of politicians, which is really, really great news. Ace, if you are still there, I'm hoping you are. I know you've had experiences overseas surfing in places that have offshore petroleum drilling, like California. What does that do to a place?
Hey, Laura. Yeah, look, I mean, I think, we just don't want to see our coastline turned into something like, the west coast of California, where, you're driving along PCH and you're looking at oil rigs. And we don't want to see that happen for so many different reasons. We've heard about the whale migration, about the loss of biodiversity. Drilling pose, if something goes wrong. And I think for that to go wrong just off the coast where, so many millions of Australians call home, and, in an ocean that we all rely on for, our sense of identity and our sense of community fabric, I think there's so much riding on this. And I think, that's why we don't want to see our coastline industrialised.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you've been an outspoken critic on this project for so long now. Why? What does it actually mean to you?
Oh, look, I think, for so many different reasons. I've got children of my own now, and, I'm proud to see that, kids these days are so much more educated than we were at the same age. And, you only have to look at the school strike for climate that have gone on, all around the world. And at the end of the day, it's our decisions that we make in the next 5-10 years max that really are going to have a huge impact on the types of lives that they live. And, I think we've got a great responsibility to ensure that they're able to enjoy the same freedoms and the same joys that, we've been able to have. And obviously, I've been lucky enough to travel the world with my surfboards and, do what I love for a living, which has been absolutely incredible. And, I want to see the next generation be able.
Absolutely. Thank you, Ace. We're having a little bit of trouble hearing you right now, but yeah, absolutely. Again, thank you so much for your support on this. And I think we can all agree that everyone's voices here matter, and especially our young ones. Bruce, I'm going to throw over to you. Is PEP11 what the government gas-led recovery policy looks like? Is anywhere on our coast safe?
Look, I think it's really important for people that live on the coast to realise it's not just the coast that's being being desecrated. If we look in New South Wales, you know, this morning, if you had a piece of toast for brekkie, odds are on that wheat would have been grown on the Liverpool plains. New South Wales's breadbasket. In that area, you know, the opposition, local opposition to that project, the Narrabri gas project, was the largest opposition that any planning project has had in the New South Wales planning history. And yet the government went ahead and pushed it through under the guise of this gas-fired recovery. So not only are we desecrating the places we love, like the ocean, but we're desecrating the areas that provide us with food. And it really is deeply concerning to me that there is no planning when it comes to gas. They're happy for it to go ahead wherever it can go ahead. You know, back when fracking first started, they even wanted to put a well in St. Peter's in the middle of Sydney. You know, it is really quite absurd just how pro-gas our government is. There's no balance in the equation, is what I'm saying. There's no balance between future life and the gas industry.
Yeah, thank you, Bruce. And we've touched on the carbon capture and storage before, which I know a few people had questions about, but I think you answered that very succinctly before, where you said it's really not viable. And the fact that they are thinking about this in the PEP11 zone, essentially to offset, just really isn't an option, is it?
No, look, it doesn't actually offset. That's the key point. Is what I'm trying to say is that it doesn't offset because it hasn't worked. And even where they're trying to make it work, like Santos, where they're just starting out on one, they're only talking about capturing up to 50%. And if you have a look where they're doing it at Moomba in the north of South Australia, there are 2,500 old wells that have been punctured into the Moomba. 2,100 old wells that have been punctured into the Moomba gas field. 2,100. Each of these provides a path for that CO2 to escape. The old wells, they're filled with cement. They're just a steel sleeve filled with cement. Over time, the cement corrodes, breaks down with hydrochloric acid that there is in the groundwater down there. The salt attacks the steel, and you get earth movement over time. You know, you get small earthquakes that crack the cement, and eventually it forms a pathway to the surface. And we've seen this happen before in California. There was a large gas storage, not a carbon capture and storage program, but a large gas storage in an old gas well. And it leaked out, and it was the biggest gas leak in history at Aliso Canyon in California. It leaked out an old gas well that they didn't even know existed. So gas boreholes. So this very idea that you're setting up a series of carbon bombs, essentially, by putting it underground. You're setting up a series of carbon bombs that over time will go off. And so it's not really a solution to the problem. The solution is to not dig it up in the first place.
Absolutely, and that's why we're all here today. Damo, what did you actually learn from the Fight for the Bite campaign that's relevant to PEP11? Is it all about community spirit and community-led action?
Yeah, absolutely, Laura. I mean, that's one thing that we really saw, that I think as we see, as I mentioned, like the state of the planet is we're in a pretty scary time in history at the moment. But one thing that really inspires me and keeps me getting to work every day and pushing for this in the late hours is the amount of community support that we're getting, and everyone banding together and really pushing to make a difference. And as we saw in the Fight for the Bite, that was a historic win, and it really was something that every single person who stepped foot onto the beaches for those paddle outs, every person who wrote a letter, every single person who shared something on social media, spoke about and really pushed, it's your victory. You know, that's a victory for all of us. And I think that's what we're seeing right now with this Stop PEP11 campaign, is that we are seeing that exact same thing, that it is our community groups and the power of the people, that we're up against these multinational, multi-billion-dollar companies. But when you have communities come together and really kind of show their opposition to this stuff and really want to protect their backyard, and it's not something that I think we're so far past now. Should you get involved? Shouldn't you? Oh, it's okay. It's great to just. This is now a responsibility for every single person on this planet who has ever enjoyed the ocean, whether it be for, as I said, their social well-being, whether it's the oxygen that they're breathing. This is where it's a responsibility for all of us to stand up and make a difference. You know, our ocean has given to us and given and given and given and given. It has never asked for anything in return. And when we, sorry, I'm getting a little bit emotional in this because I hear the likes of Asha, who's, only 19 years old, and you look at this, this is what we're not, this is not a game. This is playing for our livelihood and the very existence of our communities and everything that we've ever known. And it's something that our ocean is crying out for help right now. And it's up to every one of us to step up and help. And it really is that responsibility rather than, a volunteering kind of like, do I or don't I want to? We're in a real crisis mode right now, and we need every single person to really step up and help. So yeah, it really is important.
Thanks, Damo. I think everyone can feel your passion for this campaign, and all of Surfrider as well, and everyone that's been working on this campaign. Thank you very much. Thank you to all of our speakers today, Damo, Bruce, Asha, Emma and Ace. All of your hard work is really working towards stopping PEP11. I am really inspired from the last few days of these town halls. We've got MPs on the record saying that they support stopping PEP11, that they will vote for Zali's bill if it does get up for a vote, which is fantastic. And they are really, wanting to help this campaign. Damo, you want to jump in there?
Yeah, well, just on that, and I just want to reiterate again how people can call to action, because it's great to see some of these MPs stepping up and wanting this. But if you head over to surfrider.org.au, please sign the petition. There's a couple of petitions going on. I know Save Our Coast have one, which has been great, but this one is more in a timely manner right now, that we really need to push to make sure that these MPs hear us when we say that we want this stopped. So please go and sign that petition and share it far and wide. And also we do have an incredible new Surfrider Foundation Central Coast branch who's been working not only on our Stop PEP11 campaign, but also some of the more local issues that aren't necessarily national issues, but are still really important to local communities on that Central Coast, including seawalls that want to get built, that working with councils to reduce plastics and things like that. So please go and join your Central Coast branch as well and help in that way.
Absolutely. So everyone, just a recap, jump onto surfrider.org.au, sign the petition, share it far and wide on your social media to anyone you think should and would be involved in this campaign. Then you can go ahead and email your local member, and also why not hit up Keith Pitt at the same time. His electorate is actually on a beautiful part of the coastline in Queensland, and this man should know more about protecting coastline than anyone, because that's what he's supposed to do for his electorate. So he should be doing it down here as well. We've got support from MPs all over the country on both sides, from Labor and Liberal and everywhere in between, which is fantastic. So thank you all. Make sure you get on, sign the petition and share it around, and together we can all stop PEP11. Thanks so much.